Hey everybody, today I wanted to do a video response to dustinkreis's video Top 5 Gaming Regrets, because some of his regrets actually were my regrets, and I thought, hey, I have a couple other ones, so yeah, I don't really have a list, like a top 5 list, I just kind of have about 4 here. They're kind of, some of them are kind of tied together, so it's just my gaming regrets, really. Yeah, so, I guess I will start off with, my first regret, which is, not really, playing, actually I shouldn't say not really, not at all, not playing, the Final Fantasy games, as a kid. Yeah, huge regret. I don't know why it didn't happen. I think, to be honest with you, it never happened because, I always looked at covers, and, the Final Fantasy covers, like, for Super Nintendo, number 2 and number 3, pretty bland. They just say Final Fantasy 2 and 3, and I really didn't know what that was. I probably looked at the back and got confused, and just, it never happened. They never got rented. My best friend across the street never had it, and it just never happened, so that's a regret, and I say it's a regret not because, like, of course I can go play them right now, but because of that I don't have the nostalgia tied to it. Like, for something like Earthbound, yes, I've played it when it came out, and it's my favorite game, and I've got all these memories, and same thing with Super Mario RPG. I'm trying to think of some other ones, but either way, I really didn't play a lot of RPGs when I was a little kid, and it kind of makes me mad because I don't have the nostalgia tied to it, which really pisses me off, because RPGs are pretty much my favorite genre, along with platformers. So it's okay, like, I still play RPGs now, but, yeah, the nostalgia factor is really not there. As far as Mario goes, it is. I never played Link to the Past when it was out on Super Nintendo, and that kind of pisses me off. I think my friend had it, so I may have actually played it. But again, I never had it, and I don't think I rented it. And I think, to be honest with you, it's because the cover just said Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, and I just skipped right over it at the video store. And, you know, I don't blame myself because I was a kid, and it just never happened, and because none of my other friends were playing RPGs or Final Fantasy, it just never happened. Super Mario RPG, it was a Super Mario game, so it caught my eye. And Earthbound, the big box caught my eye, and then it just happened. And I didn't equate 2 and 2 like, oh, this is a very similar format, you'll probably like that. So yeah, that really pissed me off. Pokemon really got me into RPGs a lot too, like, even though I played Earthbound as Super Mario RPG, I really liked Pokemon. I liked going town to town. I liked having items. It's like totally all the RPG stuff, but it was too late, I think, at that point to really go back, because at that point N64 was out, and that format of RPG really, there wasn't tons on N64, and there was, but that was more the PS1 era, had all the cool Super Nintendo looking graphic, like 16-bit kind of feel. PS1 did that a lot. And that brings me to my second regret, is not associating with the PS1. When, like dustinkreis said, he was a Nintendo kid, and so was I. And when Nintendo 64 came out, it was no question, I'm getting a Nintendo 64. I asked for it for Christmas, and I remember getting it, and it was like, only losers buy a PlayStation. How could you buy that when it's just some other company making a shitty video game console? Not obviously the case, but that's what I thought, and it's really stupid. And like he said, it's not like I had a job. It's not like I had the money to be like, well, I'll have 2 consoles. No, I mean, my parents weren't gonna buy me 2 consoles. That didn't make any sense to them. Like, wouldn't even register. Like, why? That doesn't make sense. So I wouldn't have gotten it anyway. But a part of me just regrets it. My best friend across the street, same thing, he got an N64. So none of my friends had a PlayStation 1, and I guess that's why I never played it, and I really missed out on some serious stuff. And I remember when the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube era came out, it was a really big deal, because I was really excited to upgrade to the next format, and I chose the PS2 over the GameCube, which was actually a huge deal for me. because I was a Nintendo person, and I remember thinking, oh no, I'm abandoning the Nintendo series, and I was all upset. But I remember seeing either on a commercial or hearing from somebody about the Final Fantasy series, and I didn't obviously think of the Super Nintendo ones, but I remember thinking like, oh, Final Fantasy X, it looked so cool, and I was really excited, and they weren't going to put Final Fantasy onto the GameCube. I know they had like Tactics or Crystal Chronicles or whatever, but I didn't ever get into it or play it, so I remember renting a PS2 and renting a GameCube and making the decision, and I came to the conclusion that a PS2 would be a better investment. I remember thinking at the time this was more like an older person's console. I don't want to buy the kids' console anymore. The logic isn't there. It's non-existent, but this is the way it is. This is a gaming regrets video. So I remember buying a PS2. I bought it at Walmart, and I actually bought it all in change from doing odd jobs around the house, because I remember I had a paper route like 3 or 4 years later, and I'd still had money from it, and my mom said, no, like, you're not spending all that money on the PS2, because you'll have no money left, so use some of it, but do other things, do anything, like, so, like, I had garage sales, and I did, hey, can I clean the bathroom? Hey, do you need help in the garden? I did anything. Do you want me to help you wash the car? And I do anything to make any money. It took a long time. Like, I think I bought it for $299.99. It was pretty new when I bought it. I think it had only been out a year or so. But I remember I went to Walmart, and I remember, like, I'll never forget, there were 2 cashiers, and they both kind of looked at each other like, oh my god, who wants to take this? Because they saw me with this, like, bag of change, like, yeah, I had some, obviously, in 20s, but most of it was change. Like, literally pennies that they had to count. And I remember, I felt so bad, but it's legal tender, so whatever. Anyway, I was a kid and whatever. So I remember that being a huge deal, and I remember seeing Kingdom Hearts, which I really don't like at all now. No offense if you guys like it, but I don't like Kingdom Hearts. And I remember wanting it so bad because it looked really interesting to me. Like, and I think, oh, no shit, it looked interesting to me. It's all Final Fantasy characters. Why didn't I clue into it on the PS1? I think it's because I had N64, so anything advertised for PlayStation I just completely ignored. Because I was way too into, like, Super Mario 64, DK64, Banjo-Kazooie, Pokemon Snap, all those games, and I just was not... none of that I didn't even clue into. I have no memories or no relationship with Crash Bandicoot at all. I've never played it. No, I lied. I did play it. A cousin brought it for Christmas one time. He had a PS1, but I have no memories with the PlayStation 1. So what's funny is, and this sounds terrible, and I know I can't help it, but my first experience with Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy X, and that sounds terrible, but it's because I totally missed it when it was on Super Nintendo. I never had a PS1, so I missed all those, and Final Fantasy was being advertised on TV, and I just remember thinking the graphics looked so great. I couldn't believe this was actually a video game, and that had to happen. So I remember renting Final Fantasy X and thinking this is great, and then I remember somehow looking up on the internet or whatever, oh, look, Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9 exist. And I remember actually looking at Final Fantasy 7 and thinking the graphics looked retarded, and I was like, I'm not going to buy this. I can't. I have a PlayStation 2 now. I can't deal with that. Why? I'm not sure. As a kid, you make these dumb decisions that don't make any sense at all. They don't make any sense. Like, when the logic, again, it's not there. I convince people to play, like, gnarly-looking games that kids today would, be, squinting at, like, really, you play this game? I can barely, like, the pixels are ridiculous, but that's because I get it now. I don't know why, because I always thought my Super Nintendo was so great, and I, like, protected it, and this is my Super Nintendo, it's so great. But for some reason, like, PlayStation 1, it looked all I don't know, I always thought N64 looked better, and I just completely ignored it. So, I ignored Final Fantasy 7, but I looked at Final Fantasy 8, and thought, that looks cool. I can deal with that, and I end up buying it, and that was probably the second Final Fantasy game I ever had. And that really got me excited. But yeah, it pisses me off. Actually, yeah, Final Fantasy VIII was probably one of, like, I had some serious gaming sessions with that. I couldn't put it down. And it really bothers me that I completely ignored it when it actually was a new game. I guess it was cheaper to buy when I played it, so here I am with the PlayStation 2, barely playing PlayStation 2 games, so missing out on that, and playing PS1 games. Now, I didn't completely miss out on PlayStation 2 games, because I do have PlayStation 2 games, and I always remember thinking Wild Arms 3 was really cool, so I gotta go back and play the first and second one, and I really liked all the Grand Theft Auto games, but now sort of come to the other regret. Where do you think I got a lot of the money to buy the PS2? Well, it wasn't just from garage sales, and it wasn't just from my old paper route, and it wasn't just from, like, asking my mom to help her, like, clean out the car and stuff. I sold my N64. And at the time, it was the most logical thing to do. For some reason, I was never letting go of the Super Nintendo. It was glued to me, so I obviously had some kind of nostalgic attachment. Like, no, my Super Nintendo completely out of bounds. Like, this is off limits. This is my Super Nintendo. So, interesting. But the N64, despite me having quite a few games, including in-box Ocarina of Time, which, again, I could easily buy it. It's not, $1,000, but it kind of pisses me off. I had all these games, like Paper Mario, like Diddy Kong Racing, Super Mario 64, what else did I have? Smash, I don't know if I had Smash Brothers, I don't remember. DK64, Banjo-Kazooie, we got a bunch of games. So nonetheless, I remember putting an ad in the paper. I have N64, all the games, I don't even remember how much I sold it for. Probably like $80, $100, I don't know. But yeah, some kid came and bought it, and I remember not even thinking twice, like, okay, whatever, now I have money to buy a PS2. The logic was just, what can I get next? And I remember, dustinkreis was talking about his video, it was kind of like, you just want the next thing, you don't care, and somehow what bothers me is I did care, because I didn't want to let go of the Super Nintendo, but I let go of the N64. Good news, I rebought an N64, actually, it was last year or the year before, I forget, but it was the year before. Last. I did actually rebuy my N64, and I don't have that many N64 games, but I have bought the ones I really liked, like Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64 I did buy again. I didn't buy Super Mario 64 because I have it for the DS, and I figured I'm okay with that, but anyway, so I did rebuy it. It just kind of pisses me off. It's like I had to rebuy it, but then when I think back logically, if I never would have sold it, I never would have had a PS2. I don't know. I probably would have had a PS2. I'm sure I would have found some way to get it. I just would have maybe gotten it later. Yeah, that kind of pisses me off. And I remember during the PS2 years for me were very much of a stereotypical unnerdy gamer. So, how do I explain this? I played games like Gran Turismo, Grand Theft Auto. Just trying to think of like other things. Yeah, I played some RPGs here and there, but in general, it was really stereotypical stuff going on here. No out there kind of gaming, not a lot of RPGs. I really kind of abandoned portable consoles for a while. This is during my early high school years, like that 15, 16-year-old self of yours. And what really pisses me off is that I probably missed out on a lot of games. So I'm kicking myself a bit because it's not that I can't go back and play them. I can easily go and buy some PlayStation 2 game. That I missed out on. I can easily do that. I have my PS2 still. Works great. I've been playing Final Fantasy VII on it because that's another game I missed out and finally got my hands on it. But while I'm sitting here playing Grand Theft Auto, I could have been playing a lot of other cool games. Not that Grand Theft Auto games aren't cool. I actually really like them. They're fun, but they're not the Final Fantasy nostalgia-esque kind of games. So, yeah, I think like not huge regrets here. Like, again, selling my N64. I bought one again. I have it. Not playing RPGs as a kid. I can now. Not buying a PlayStation 1 earlier. I can play all those games now, and whatever. And abandoning games during awkward teen years. That's what I wrote on a piece of paper. Yeah, that's a little bit of a regret. I remember when Pokemon Ruby Sapphire came out, I bought Emerald, and it came with a Game Boy Advance SP, and it slowly started to get me thinking about games. I don't know, I just, like, went through this weird period of, like, let's play Grand Theft Auto, and I was just really, like, I sort of, like, my nerd self just kind of, like, went pushed aside a little bit. And if people know me, they know that's not me. I'm, like, really nerdy gamer person, so something happened. I remember when the DS came out, something happened and I got really excited again to game, and PS3 came out and I just got recharged. Not that I wasn't playing games when PS2 came out. I remember renting Harvest Moon and getting really excited and playing all sorts of cool games, and playing Final Fantasy X. That I played that a lot, and Final Fantasy X-2, which I actually liked. I didn't care about the all-female cast. I mean, I'm a girl anyway, but it didn't bother me. It was, again, not the best Final Fantasy, but... So, like, I admit to not, still not having played some of the most famous Final Fantasy games, and that kind of bothers me. I have played Final Fantasy IV, and it really didn't do a lot for me, to be honest with you. But I've really, really, really heard from several people to play Final Fantasy VI, which I have. I have on PS1 in the anthology, so I'll have to check that out when I can. But yeah, those are some of my gaming regrets. Not huge regrets, not like I didn't throw this away, so, I'm sorry, that was awful. But, like, nothing like that. I guess to some extent, I don't have my original Super Nintendo box. I got it in 1993, so who the hell knows where it went, to be honest with you. When you're a little kid, you do not think of that, and my parents sure as hell didn't. I wouldn't be surprised if they threw it out, like, a couple months after. Just so it's like, okay, the thing's working, we don't need this anymore. Just like you throw away any other box of something. It's like, yeah. So, as far as, like, other box games, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't have that many boxes for my Super Nintendo games. I do for all my Donkey Kong games, but that's kind of it. I don't have the box for some of these games. I did buy them, a lot of them, without the box, so no kidding. But, like, games from my childhood, like, I think I still have Mario Paint in the box somewhere. I'll have to do some digging. But I don't have a lot of console boxes. I have my PS3 box. I have a Nintendo DS box. I have my 3DS box. I don't know if I have my PlayStation 2 box. Maybe this will be an adventure in the basement. I don't know where it is, but in general, like, I don't have some of these boxes anymore. And I really, really, really wish I had the Super Nintendo box, because I remember it being as big as me. So, it was, like, a huge deal. It was kind of like one of those where you look up at it and you're like, wow. And maybe that's exaggerating, but that's how it felt. And I'm also short anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised that, 4-year-old me was shorter than the average 4-year-old. So, yeah, I have some regrets there, for sure, but not huge ones. Now I'm starting to ramble. I apologize for that, guys. But yeah, I think for me the biggest one would be not having played some of these Final Fantasy games when I was younger, because I just don't have that nostalgic factor. Final Fantasy as a name does. It brings me nostalgia because of the PS1 and PS2 games that came out, because I just know the series, and I know RPGs. I do. But, yeah, it's a bit of a kicker. It kind of bothers me because I just wish I had some of these memories where I could think about, spending hours with Final Fantasy VI, and I don't. But the good news is that I was too young for the NES, so there was no way I would have played it. My parents wouldn't have bought me an old system. So that's okay. I can't really regret that. Final Fantasy 2, 3, and 5 weren't even released here. So how can I have regrets of not playing them? Now is the time. So only 4 and 6 technically were available, and I did not play them. I've played Final Fantasy IV and again didn't care for it, but it's too dungeon crawlery. That's not my thing. I'm not huge into that. I want more exploration, not confinement, I guess. Like Earthbound feels like that to me. And Super Mario RPG is just out there. Or some of the, like, I always remember 8 being so cool. Final Fantasy 8. Yeah, that's kind of it for gaming regrets. Again, not big ones, but what are your gaming regrets? Let me know in the comments. Because I'm just curious, like, did you throw something out? Did you see something for sale and you never bought it? I'm trying to think if that happened to me, but that really hasn't happened to me. Actually, I saw Silicon Valley for the N64 at a convention 2 weeks ago, and I didn't buy it. It was $20, and now I'm kind of feeling like I should have, so... but I already bought Link to the Past and Wild Arms 3 at that convention, and I was like, I should stop. Anyway, that's it for my video today. Those are my gaming regrets, and not too bad, but nonetheless, they are regrets to me. So, have a good one. That's pretty much it. And don't forget to comment and subscribe. See you guys!